What's up, guys? We are back for another Marvel Legends review, taking a look at, well, another MCU figure, which is again against the norm for me, but I found myself at a Walgreens and found this figure, and I just couldn't not get him, especially when I saw the Build-A-Figure piece, and now I feel the need to build Molten Man for some reason, which was not in the plan at all, but here we are. So today we're taking a look at the Spider-Man Far From Home Stealth Suit Spider-Man. So this is the new suit in the movie. So we've got him here in the standard Marvel Legends packaging. You can see him there in the window with his enormous Build-A-Figure piece. We've got artwork on the sides, and then we've got more artwork on the back, as well as a write-up and our lineup for the wave. So let's do it. Let's pull this guy out, take a look. And here he is out of the package, our Stealth Suit Spider-Man from the Far From Home movie. And this is a figure that, I'm not really sure I needed to buy. It certainly isn't my forte when it comes to Legends. As you may or may not be aware, MCU stuff really isn't my thing, but I've grabbed two MCU Spider-Man figures recently, and this one's kind of cool. I mean, if you didn't really know what it was, you might not even think it was a Spider-Man outside of the lenses around the eyes. Nothing else at all says Spider-Man except for those eyes. So I'm curious to see what people are going to use this guy for outside of just having a Spider-Man. I could see some snake eyes coming out of this. Maybe a slightly small snake eyes, but this figure is kind of cool, and I like it for what it is. So we're going to jump right in, take a look at Articulation, and he moves pretty well. I don't really have too many issues with how he's going to move. He's pretty similar to the regular Spider-Man, just a little different. So the head can look really far up, which is fantastic. He goes really far down, and then full rotation. Arms go out, they rotate. You do have a butterfly joint. Mine were kind of stiff. Just had to work them, and then they moved fine, but it was kind of an oddity. I usually don't have that issue with Legends. We've got a bicep swivel. You've got double jointed elbows that go way, way up, so that's fantastic. You've got hinges and rotation at the wrist. You do have an ab crunch, so it goes backwards, forwards, and then you've got a twist. Legs go out pretty far. They kick forward all the way. They kick back a little bit, not too much, but they do go backwards. You've got a thigh cut, double jointed knees, and then you've got your rocker and hinge down there at those ankles. So he moves probably about as well as you would expect, but honestly he moves a little better than I was expecting him to, especially at the butterfly joint. Despite it being a little stiff, it has a nice wide range of motion, and those elbows go a lot further than I expected them to. He moves well, and there's really nothing to gripe about when it comes to the articulation on this one. Now in the looks department, there is a lot to talk about, but also not a lot to talk about, because this thing kind of achieves what it's going for. It's a stealth suit, and it is nothing but blacks. That's really it, except for some exposed fingers, and then of course those silver lenses. The entirety of this figure is just two tones of black. So you've got matte finish, and then you've got shinier finishes, which works pretty well. It breaks up the sculpt. It makes him not look like just an amorphous blob of black, and it's a pretty cool design. Again, like I said, if you didn't really think about those eyes as a Spider-Man, you might not know that this is a Spider-Man, which I think is kind of cool. So, for someone like me who doesn't really care about MCU figures, this is just kind of a cool figure that happens to be a Spider-Man, but it also seems to be pretty solid in the context of, what it's supposed to be, Spider-Man in this stealthy suit. So it is a smaller figure. There is a bit of a small stature, just like the other Spider-Man, so it definitely seems like, not a full adult here. We've got, a slightly shorter, slightly slimmer build, which works really well. And in respects of this movie itself, there is a lot of sculpt all over this thing, despite the fact that it is, of course, just black. There is a lot to break it up. So there's tons of line work on the chest. There's a lot of line work that runs down the arms. You've got a utility belt here that wraps around. There's a lot on the back as well. And then you've got more that runs down the legs, a lot of like straps and pouches and things of that nature, stuff that is there. And at first glance, you might not see it, but as he hits the light a different way, you'll see that things kind of pop and they come to life a little bit. So it's a cool design, and I think they did a pretty good job of making it as stealthy as possible in, just being black, while also being detailed enough in certain circumstances to kind of make it look more exciting than just a flat black figure from head to toe. So there's enough stuff on this body to break up the sculpt when the light hits it to say, hey, there is a lot here. There's a lot of design work that went into this, and there is a lot of line work all over this. It's just hidden, which works really well when you think about the fact that it's not supposed to be seen anyway. Now the head sculpt kind of achieves the same thing here because just like the body being all black, it is covered in sculpted detail. It's not just a solid head sculpt. Everything is textured. So you've got his mask that sits at the front, which wraps around the back of the head and over the top with 3 different straps. So all these straps are sculpted, and then the mask itself is lined with various lines that are all over it to give it some texture, which breaks up in the light. And then you've got that little bit of silver paint for the eyes. So it is kind of a subdued Spider-Man look, but if you know what you're looking for, you kind of know that, yeah, that's a Spider-Man mask. You'll know right away, but it also very much kind of gives that look that it's not necessarily going for your quintessential Spider-Man, but you can tell that, yeah, there's a Peter Parker under there, but it's very much kind of just a stealthy Spec Ops kind of look, which I think is pretty cool, and they achieved a pretty good look with those lines. It shimmers in the light, but it also kind of hides what's going on there when you don't have a bunch of harsh lights on it as well. And now as far as accessories goes, he has a couple things. Honestly, I'm not too sure why they did this. I'm sure they could have done this a different way. Instead of giving us an entirely separate head, I was honestly surprised that this didn't just flip up. They could have hinged it or something, but you have a replacement head for Spider-Man here that has the eyepieces that flip up. Well, it's stationary, but that's what it's supposed to replicate. And then you've got his exposed eyes underneath there. And then you've got a couple of thwipping hands, so you've got a pair of them for, either hand. So standard stuff there. That's all he really has himself. So yeah, I guess kind of the bare minimum, but I'm not really sure what more he really should have yet, unless they wanted to give us some webbing, but we're not going to get that. But we do have to talk about this, and normally I don't do this when it comes to individual figures in a Legends wave, but I've got to talk about this thing. This is just the biggest thing I have seen from Hasbro in a long time, and really having this bath piece is really what makes me want to build this figure, because this thing is crazy. It's got translucent parts here, so this is translucent, so light will shine through it. It's just massive. I mean, look how big it is compared to this figure. It's another 1.5 inches taller. And then you've also got the little rebar piece that, or steel girder piece that's supposed to be in there, kind of sticks in the back. So this thing's pretty gnarly. I want to build Molten Man now. I'm not sure that I needed this figure, but I'm pretty sure this alone justifies my purchase. This is a huge chunk of plastic. It's bigger than most Legends figures, and it weighs probably twice as much as old Stealth Spidey here. So overall, this is a really fun figure. I am 100% more interested in this thing than I ever thought I was going to be. I don't think I'm going to go gung-ho on going back and getting any MCU figures just because I like this one, but I think this is a really cool Spider-Man figure in the sense that, I don't have to think of it as a Spider-Man figure, or I can. It's up to the user when it comes to what you're going to do with this guy, because he is very much a Spider-Man, but he also very much does not look like a Spider-Man in pretty much 99% of the way that he normally would. So there is a lot of cool stuff here, good articulation, sculpt is on point, and despite the fact that he doesn't really have a whole lot of paint, the colors work really well. I think Hasbro did a good job of translating the idea of a stealthy Spider-Man suit into plastic. It's a fun figure. That's pretty much all you need to know. It's a fun figure, and it comes with this crazy, monstrous Build-A-Figure arm as well. So that's going to do it for this look at the Marvel Legends Stealth Suit Spider-Man. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.